2.8, 13, 17, the snippet size is lightweight. You base your A/B testing tool choice on that because it means the tool won't affect page performance, right? In live experiments, the snippet size you install is often just a loader. The real payload arrives after, sometimes running into hundreds of kilobytes after the pages render. Hi, I'm Kamel and welcome back to the Convert YouTube channel where we talk all things CRO and experimentation. At Convert, we did research and set out with one key question: what is the actual payload required to run a real A/B test in production? The goal of our investigation was to measure the true execution cost of A/B testing scripts across some leading platforms. Instead of only isolating the snippet installed on the page, we treated script size as the full execution footprint. That means every asset required to deliver an experiment to a user was included, namely initial script payload, inline snippet or SDK, additional scripts loaded at runtime, total bytes transferred, gzipped or uncompressed, number of network requests triggered, timing of execution relative to page render, presence of dynamic loading patterns, for example, script injection or API fetches. We maintained the same set of evaluation steps for each tool snippet. Step 1, direct measurement from production environments. For Convert, A/B Lift, VWO, and MIDA, we pulled the tracking scripts directly from live customer sites or vendors' public GitHub repositories and measured each with curl to capture both gzipped transfer size and uncompressed payload. For web trends, visually, fiber, and amplitude, direct access wasn't possible, so we relied on figures reported in the MIDA benchmark and the respective vendor documentation. Step 2, code level analysis of how scripts execute. We examined what happens after initial script loads. We looked for patterns such as progressive injection, where additional scripts are introduced at runtime, and external API calls fetch experiment configurations or variation logic. This way we could trace the full execution path of each tool. Step 3, measuring runtime dependencies and total payload. Using browser dev tools, we captured the full network waterfall triggered by each testing tool, talking about secondary scripts, configuration files, and any dynamically injected resources needed to run experiments. This measurement gave us the total payload required to execute an experiment. Step 4, architectural and trade-off analysis. Each platform delivered experiments quite differently. We categorized them based on this, and each architecture had its trade-offs. More on this in the findings section of the article, linked in the description below. Step 5, validation against vendor claims and benchmarks. Finally, we lined everything up against what vendors report. We reviewed official documentation and third-party benchmark, including the MIDA SO benchmark, and compared them against direct measurements from production environments. Step 6, individual competitor assessment. As a last step, we assessed each platform independently across the same dimensions: reported script size versus measured payload, delivery architecture, impact on page load, and core web vitals, and approach to flicker prevention and experiment timing. This is what we found. 1, reported snippet size rarely reflects the total payload. There's a visible gap between what many vendors claim and what actually runs, as you'll see in the 2 images on screen now. Smallest script size claims work because they're easy to understand and compare, but it doesn't tell you where execution begins. When you compare the actual payload and the risk of flicker, you'll assess the true performance and data reliability. For a detailed breakdown of how Convert's delivery architecture differs from every platform measured, and what full payload delivered upfront, no hidden runtime fetches, actually means for your core web vitals or flicker prevention, read Smallest A/B Testing Script, Why That Claim Misleads by Uwem Usa on the Convert blog, linked in the description below.